Meeting called to order. The Brownsville Independent School District's Board of Trustees regular board meeting held today, August 1st, 2006 at 5:30 at the Administration Building. Will everyone please rise for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance? We have roll call. Everyone's here, with the exception of Mr. Colunga. He will not be making the meeting tonight. And Ms. Galvan, I saw her, so I guess she's indisposed at this moment, but I think she will join us momentarily. Move on to item 5, to recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of August 1st, 2006. With any corrections, before I move on, board members, Mr. Otis Powers requested pursuant to policy BE local that several agenda items tabled at the meeting of June 20th, 2006 be placed on the agenda for today. That would be item 31. As president, I have very serious concerns that these agenda items may violate section 11.163 of the Texas Education Code. Having said that, I am aware that legal counsel has researched and discussed this issue with TASB, the Texas Education Agency, and other private attorneys throughout the state. Additionally, pursuant to Robert's rules, the items tabled must be voted upon to be brought back off the table for consideration. So I feel that a procedural vote to bring the items back would first be in order. Councilor, your comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lehman, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the board. We did do extensive research, as Mr. Gonzalez is aware, not only into the request, but the legal effects thereof. That included 3 or 4 separate consultations with attorneys from TASB, consultations with TEA, and of course consultation with private networks that I have access to regarding these agenda items. You're absolutely right, Mr. Lehman. The procedural aspects of it are, if we are going to be technically rule on the Roberts rule, would require a procedural move in order for somebody to bring these back off of the table. There is a little difference in our local rules with BE and the rights of board members being somewhat at odds with Robert's rules, and that's one of the main reasons these things were printed up on the agenda, because of the rights afforded board members under BE local. Having said that, though, the procedural rule would still be in order to bring these things off of the table and back to consideration, so there would have to be a vote taken in that respect first. Of second consideration, and much more serious, is the effect of these items. Basically, after my research and consultations with the sources previously indicated, we do have some concerns that this would be violating the education code regarding the administration's ability to be able to recommend all personnel matters, and whether a board member has the ability or the right to bring a personnel matter to the board without the current administration's consideration. Basically, any act that would be done if these items were to be brought back procedurally, which I'm recommending against right now, would be subject to legal attack. In one way or the other. Basically, the final analysis that we gave this from a legal standpoint, putting together the minds at TASB, myself, and others, was that there can only be one superintendent at a time, And although that our local policy, as we all know in several matters, is conflicts among itself and conflicts with Robert's rules, the key here is that these recommendations are without the recommendation of the current administration, and therefore would be subject to attack under that section 11-183, I believe, of the Education Code, which requires that all personnel issues, unless delegated to the superintendent, be brought as recommendations to be voted up and down by the board, and then the superintendent has the right to continue to bring recommendations thereafter. It's one of the areas in which TEA most closely scrutinizes board members and scrutinizes the actions of boards, and that is in this particular area. So with all those cautions in mind, you know, I don't know if any of you wish to open this for discussion or what you'd like to do, Mr. Lehman. The meeting is yours.
The item will not be open for debate, so I'll just move on to the motion that to put back or off the table. So at this time, I will entertain a motion by Mr. Powers or any other board member to bring the table items back on for consideration, and although clearly against my recommendation and the recommendation of council, and keeping in mind that the items are not the recommendation of the current administration, do I have a motion to bring back for consideration item 31A through E? Motion to bring back. Motion dies. Move on. Mr. Gonzalez will items.
Mr. Lehman, you at that point, I believe you still have the issue of the recommendation of approving the agenda.
That's what I'm going to do right now. If you
All right.
right places. Okay. Item 5. Recommend approving the agenda. Mr. Gonzalez, I've read the item. Do you have any corrections or deletions?
Thank you, Mr. Lehman, members of the board. Items under closed meeting 9, closed meeting A, items 6 and 7 will not be addressed tonight. Items 6 and 7.
Okay. Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda without the items requested by Mr. Powers as presented by administration?
I move to approve.
Motion to approve. Second. Motion and second to approve the agenda as read. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye. 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 Motion carries. Okay, move on to 6. Recommend approving the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 20th, 2006, and the minutes of the special call board meeting of June 27th, 2006, with any corrections. Mr. Munoz, I believe you had.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. President. I have 2 items, one for each of the meetings. The first one is on page 007. That's for the meeting of June 20th. Page 007. What I would like to do is I would like to preface the statement about in the middle of the page. Administration will send out a survey to the classroom. I'd like to preface that with, after specific discussion by the board, comma, it was agreed that administration will send out a survey to the classroom teachers on supplies and materials and site-based decision making. After survey is received, it would be sent to the board members for their perusal. So the item that after specific discussion by the board, it was agreed that I would like to add that. That gives me an opportunity to mention to my associates that I requested that the administration make a form for a suspense report, an action item and suspension report. We've discussed it here before and over the last couple of years, and it's just never happened. And fortunately, I'm pleased to see that the administration has put together a form as I requested, and this form will be for keeping track of items that the board requests and that the administration is supposed to get for us. So quite often we feel like we don't get what we request. We forget. We ourselves forget about it, and the administration forgets about it. So we're going to ask that the board secretary be the keeper of this form, and that whenever something like this comes up, whoever is the asking the issue be addressed. Just address the secretary and have her note it, and then she will track it, and then periodically, say once or twice a month, we'll get a copy of the status of all of the items that are due to be brought before the board or information. So I think that will plug that little gap that we had. Item 2 is on page 017. Oh, the reason I mentioned that is because the survey, so we want to make sure that we get the survey. So item 2 is on page 17, and again, I'd like to preface a statement here. It says administration, it's at the top of the page, third line, administration will bring back a report on perfect attendance as board president request, comma. This was requested by the board president. Administration will bring back a report on perfect attendance, and so on and so forth. In addition, after the next sentence, also, I'd like to strike the possibility of beginning the budget process early in January. I'd like to strike that and replace it with also members Munoz and Galvan pointed out the budget process needed to be started in December or January, as per TASB recommendation, not within the final 2 to 2.5 months of the current fiscal year. We have not, we do not allow enough time for the board to thoroughly go over the proposed budget. That's all I've got, Mr. President.
Mr. Gonzalez, you concur?
Yes, I concur, and if Mr. Munoz, if you could give that to our secretary so she can do the corrections in the minutes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, motion, is there a motion to approve? Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Aye, motion carries. Item 7, Superintendent's Report. A, Conference Presentation. 1, Presentation on the notification of Betterment Fund change orders and contract change orders. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. We have a notification of one change order for Pace High School Planning and Renovation Project, and it's basically getting our Betterment Fund back for $15,000. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments? Okay, thank you. Move on to item 2, Employee Handbook for 2006-2007 school year. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. If you have any questions, Mr. Pineda has been working with the Employee Handbook, and he'll give a brief presentation and then entertain any questions. Mr. Pineda.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. President, members of the board. What you have before you tonight, we're quite proud of. It's been approximately 3 years since we last updated our personnel handbook. With your permission, sir, I will call upon Ms. Judy Cuellar, our administrator for classified personnel, to go over some of the highlights that you will find in our personnel handbook. Mostly what you're going to see are cosmetic changes. We reference policy quite a bit as policy has changed, and efforts to make this more user-friendly. Thank you, Ms. Cuellar.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman, members of the board, Mr. Gonzalez. My name is Judy Cuellar. I'm the administrator for classified personnel. I'm here to present to you the updated version of our employee handbook. For the past few years, our employee handbook has been an online version, and what we would like to do is we feel it'd be beneficial to not only the district but to the employee to not only have the online version but to also supply the employees with a hard copy as well. During the recent OCR visit, this was one of the items for discussion, and they strongly recommended that we do provide our employees with a hard copy so that there could be no complaints of any type of discrimination. So in following with their recommendations, we will be providing that as well. As Mr. Pineda said, the major changes to this handbook are mostly cosmetic in that we've changed the format in hopes of making it a little bit more user-friendly. We followed the basic formula from the TASB model handbook, and we've met with administrators for the past year or so, reviewing the different changes in their departments in order to streamline it, make it a little more easier. One of the other changes that you'll find is the reference to the policy or procedure for that specific topic. Like for instance, on page 7, as just a sample, On page 7, you'll find an area for computer software. Right underneath that area, it refers to district policy EFE local. And that way, if an employee, after reading the handbook, has more questions or needs more information regarding that area, they can turn to that policy. It will also refer to administrative policy or specific district policies as well. As you'll recall, this year we had a lot of policy changes to our district policies. What we've done, we've needed to go back as a result and review some of our procedures. So you'll see some of those changes or additions in this handbook. For instance, section DIA, it was on sexual harassment. This is a completely new policy. So we've tried to insert the entirety of that policy so that we can let our employees become more familiar with that policy. So we've included those, trying to coordinate everything that we've done this past year with the board. We've also included information on the sick leave bank, which was not in the old handbook. Some updated military leave provisions. We've expanded the sections on the insurance and safety areas for the employees' benefit as well. This was a collaborative effort. I'd like to thank my staff. Ms. Yolanda Gavito and I worked very hard on this. Martina Rambula, Mr. Pineda, and hopefully it's a product that you'll be happy with and something that we can continue to improve as the years go on. And I do have to admit, I found a couple of typos, so those typos will be corrected before the distribution. Entertain any questions.
Gonzalez, additional comments? Any comments from the board? Okay, thank you. Move on to item 3, presentation of high school master schedules, changes, financial impact on teacher staffing, formula 23 to 1. Mr. Powers, but Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez, we did this last year. I just want to make sure that we're having enough teachers being hired on the high school level.
Mr.
Number one,
Powers?
are we doing the staffing ratio 23 to 1 also?
Yes. If I may, I'll address the issue. Yes, we did not change schedules, master schedule from last year, or for that matter, for the previous 2 years. We remain with the same master schedule. We have been working with Mr. Pineda and his staff in HR, and we're looking at 23 to 25 to 1. We're working diligently in getting the staff that's needed to do that. Principals are interviewing and getting the staff that they need, and I've been assured by Mr. Pineda that they're working diligently, trying to get the teachers in place, and those have been budgeted for under those formulas.
Currently, how many vacancies we have in high schools? Do you have an idea?
Mr. Pineda?
I have an idea, but to quote it right now, I am not prepared for that. We do have that online, and I viewed it this morning, but it changes hourly,
Okay.
Mr. Powers, but I certainly can get you the latest information on Friday. In fact, it's already here.
It's already. Good job.
Okay. There are 81 inclusive of what's going before the board tonight. So by tomorrow morning, that will change, or shortly after tonight, that changes again. But there's 81 right now inclusive, and we do have it color-coded, indicating to me what is going before the board tonight, what paperwork is already in process for the 15th meeting, and what interviews have taken place for the first meeting in September. So we're on track as best we can be.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Okay, thank you. Move on to item 4, presentation on Texas House Bill 1 as it relates to the internal auditor. Mr. Munoz, Mr. Gonzalez? Item placed by Mr. Munoz. Mr. Munoz?
Yes, Mr. President. I requested this item be posed as a question to the administration on how we're going to approach this. I'll just read it quickly if I can. Dear Mr. Gonzalez, as you aware, Texas House Bill 1 has added Section 11170 to the Texas Education Code, which states, if a school employs an internal auditor, the Board of Trustees shall select the internal auditor, and the internal auditor shall report to the board. That makes it mandatory, the shall. BISD does employ the position of internal auditor with staff, thus we are bound to comply with this statute. At this point in time, as an aside, the internal auditor does not report directly to the board. They report to us more or less jointly. We had the authority to do so, but apparently the state felt that it was important to codify it. Please prepare an item for placement on the next regular board meeting agenda, which will allow the board to come into compliance with state law. The formal nomination and approval of an individual and staff, along with the revision of the organization chart, appears to be in order. BISD policy CFC, local accounting audits, will have to be amended to reflect the substance of the changes, and any modifications the board may feel are warranted. Local policy CFC and any related policy items will be addressed by the policy committee in the near term, Dr. Escobedo, and staff preparation should be made accordingly. So I guess Superintendent Gonzalez, what is your position on this, or where are we at?
Thank you, Mr. Munoz, Mr. Lehman, and members of the board. We are aware of that this House bill that came into effect in May, and it is a part of the law. And we feel that we do employ an internal auditor. We all know we do. And because of the fact that it comes to the board for approval, the administration has made a recommendation of the internal auditor, and the board has approved the internal auditor. So because the board has approved in the process, they have selected an internal auditor. Because if they did not want that internal auditor, there would have been a rejection of the recommendation, and another one could have been brought up. So at this point in time, we're in compliance because this board does have to have final authority in the employment of professional individuals. That being said, as far as reporting to the board, that is something that we're looking at. I've asked Mr. Saldana to look at it to see how the intent of the legislature was, whether it reports to the board as a corporate through a board president, or to each individual board member, which would be very difficult for the internal auditor to report to 7 individuals. But it's something that's there, and also it would take into consideration, I think maybe through a board workshop, once you find the findings of the internal auditor, and then action would have to be taken. The board cannot take action against any employee of the district, or disciplinary action, or in any form or fashion. So then the superintendent would have to be informed and be brought up to date to see what possible action, if any, needs to be done against any employee or any situation that has been reported to the board by the internal auditor. So at this point, I'm trying to get maybe TASB to clarify through maybe developing a local policy, and Mr. Saldana to clarify in researching that. And I don't know where you are at this time, Mr. Saldana, if you can enlighten us a little bit.
Mr. Lehman, Mr. Gonzalez, members of the board, there is very little or no clarification to be anticipated from TASB or anybody else. All right, this is brand new, number one. Number two, I did the research regarding the talk on the floor when this amendment was added. There was little or no discussion or debate on the floor in terms of the policy reasons behind it. It basically offers very little guidance, and right now the staff at TASB and myself are trying to basically formulate what we think would be a basic interpretation. We feel that we have the basic interpretations down, and the bottom line is that the details will be left to the board in terms of how they feel they want to manage the issue. All the way from the selection process, the reporting process, and the evaluation process will all be in the hands of the board. That's the one thing that we all can agree on at this point in time. Other than that, as far as the details are concerned, the only guidance that we're seeing around the state right now is that that we implement some type of policy changes and come up with a set of rules as to basically how this board wants to handle this. The one thing that's absolutely clear, in addition to that, is that the reporting is directly to the board. Most superintendents are not big fans of this bill, Mr. Gonzalez, but that's one intent that we can pretty much take from this, in spite of the brevity of the debate on the floor when this thing was attached to HB1. But my recommendation is that a policy meeting be conducted and that some types of recommendations be made by the board members, or instruct administration to bring you all some recommendations as to how you all want to handle this.
We, speaking for my colleagues, we appreciate the sensitivity of the work that the internal auditors do. And of course, we recognize that as far as acting on any of the findings, the superintendent has to be fully aware of what is brought to us, and we understand that. What we're seeking is some guidance on just how we put our policy together. Probably the only thing that can be done at this point in time is modify the organization chart. There's no doubt that the internal auditor will report to us. I don't think there's any question about who the internal auditor is. I don't think anyone here is questioning that. Mr. Gonzalez explained that we had already approved the internal auditor for this year. I don't foresee any changes at this point of time, but we want to make sure that the position is protected. I use that word carefully, that the people that work as internal auditors, jobs would not ever be in jeopardy because of what they do. So we have to be careful how we write this policy. I suggest that we look at some of the larger districts and see if they've enacted any policy changes. But I'm an advocate of this. We also need to know, I feel like because of this, the audit committee or the board as a whole should be able to initiate audits on our own volition and instruct the auditor to look at different items. And I need clarification on this. We need clarification on this, and we'd expect you to verify that. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. But that's one of the questions we need to clarify.
Mr. Lehman?
Yes,
Mr. Munoz, as previously stated, there really is no right and wrongs right now because we're venturing into new ground. Eventually, I would assume that if a set of criteria is developed, that if somebody wants to challenge it, it'll get challenged, and then we'll start finding out, who's right and wrong. But just as an aside right now regarding the issues, my understanding is our auditors are on contract with the district and on our non-Chapter 21 personnel. As a result of that, they have a direct appeal to the board should any adverse personnel action be taken against one. So in essence, you are watchdogs of that already in our process, in our policy regarding non-Chapter 21 employees. They would have be able to get a final hearing before the board in order to determine whether any adverse personnel action should be conducted against them. So in essence, that safeguard is in place right now. So I just thought I'd let you know that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Dr. Scalise?
We will see this in the next policy committee.
Mr. Gonzalez?
If I may add, Dr. Escobedo, I'll ask Mr. Arambula, our policy person, to go ahead and contact TASB to see if they can come up with samples of possible local policies involving this. So, and I'll send them to the board and to you for review before the policy committee.
Well, number one, Counselor, this is legal action. Therefore, we would expect something to come up with CFC legal would be addressed.
We're hoping that, but they're all kind of scratching their heads over there in
I
Austin
understand.
right now.
So
And
we're waiting to see what TASB puts on their.
And that was going to be my other comment, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. President, is that we got an update coming down the road. I don't know when, but when it does, I anticipate there'll be some language, because that's really what Mr. Munoz read, that brief little 2-sentence statute. That's really all we got at this point in time to work with, and how we craft the policy on that into legal form, what it means, and into local form as to other matters that we may want to handle ancillary to that, we got a long way to go.
Well, and then suggest as Mr. Munoz and Mr. Gonzalez and Dr. Escobedo, we take this up in committee. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Thank you. Move on to B, standing board agenda items 5, board calendars. Mr. Gonzalez?
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Yes, August is a very busy month, and there's some items that are not included on the calendar that I'd like to bring you up to date on. We have campus administrators in service at the Central Administration Building this Thursday and Friday. Certainly be if any board member wants to attend. First meeting is at 8 o'clock on Thursday if you want to say a few words to the administration. We're glad to have you there. I'm going to be doing the introductory remarks, so if you want to, just call my office and we'll know. It'll be at the cafeteria there at Central. Very important board retreat, board meeting here at the boardroom at 9 a.m. on Saturday. I've changed it. I know I had told you the possibility about the museum downtown. However, because of limited parking, I decided to move it right back to this boardroom. So it'll be at 9 a.m. The following week, of course, we have new teacher in service. There's a banquet on the 10th at 6 p.m. and it'll be at the Plaza Real Hotel, formerly the Sheraton 4 Points. I would like to see all the board members there. It's an introduction of new teachers. We've done it every year, and it's a very nice thing to do. And so it'll be on the 10th at 6 p.m. We also have staff development on the week of the 14th, and very important date is the 16th, if you want to circle that. At 6 p.m., we have a back-to-school rally at Rivera High School. So I'd like to see all of you there. We're going to have Happy do a little presentation, so we all need to get happy, and we'll be doing that. So I encourage everybody and the public and general public and teachers and everybody to join us in the back-to-school rally on the 16th. The 21st, very important day, first class day of school. The 23rd is a special called board meeting for bids at 5:30 p.m. That's a Mr. Sanchez type meeting where we approve the quarterly bids, and that's not on the calendar. You might want to place it in there. I'll send you a revised calendar, by the way, but I'm just letting you know. And on the 24th is the summer school graduation at Rivera High School at 7 p.m. And that's very, very important. And the September one is pretty well up to date. I think we can do that probably on the August 15th board meeting, but it's there for you all to look at. And just to remember that we do have Labor Day on the 4th, and we do have a board meeting on the 5th. We'll have that.
Additional comments?
Yes, Mr. President. I would ask that Mr. Gonzalez set up a facilities meeting.
Sure.
As soon as possible. We have a lot to discuss. And we should also have a audit committee meeting soon. We have some items that were presented to us that we need to discuss.
Curriculum committee also? Yes, please. And I've also contacted Mr. Powers about it.
Right, we'll do that August 17th.
August 17th? Get that, Mr. Sanchez, August 17th? And I'll contact the rest of the chair people on what days they want those other meetings.
Get us revised calendars, it would certainly.
Definitely. They'll be out tomorrow.
Additional comments? Thank you. I'll move on to Roman numeral 8, public audience. The next item on our agenda is public comment period. This is the time for citizens, staff, or students to provide their comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meetings, so please let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter of your comments must appear on the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments. With all due courtesy, I will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment, in my judgment, constitutes a complaint against an employee or an officer, I will interrupt and ask you to stop and direct you to proceed with the BISD's formal grievance procedures, be that of DGBA, FNG, or GF of our local policy. With those cautions in mind, we will now be glad to hear the general comments. The first person, and remember you have 5 minutes. George Borrego, AOB, E, and miscellaneous.
Good afternoon. I apologize for what I'm wearing that doesn't match, but before I left the house, my wife said, "You are not going to the school board meeting in shorts." So I put on a pair of pants, and I realized when I hit the sun that it didn't match. The Brownsville Herald seems to be in a hurry to hire a superintendent. We shouldn't be. We need to give Mr. Gonzalez a chance to settle things down, to take the realm for 6 months to a year and give us some continuity. We need his support at the administrative level and at the school level so that we can have some stability. There is no rush. Rushing can get us into trouble. So let's see if we can slow things down a little bit, give Mr. Gonzalez a chance, and see what happens thereafter. Administration, so the school board and administration should support all our principals with their needs, whether it be supplies or staffing. We will perform as well as we are supported. And if you give us support, then we will be there to give you those infamous TOX scores where the students will be successful. It has already been proven with research after research after research that if you put 35 kids in a classroom, learning will drop. And if you put 5 in a classroom, there will be no learning because there's not enough interaction. We're not asking for a pupil-student ratio of 5:1, but 20 to 25 is perfect. We should be able to work with that, and we need the board support and we need administrative support to see that that occurs. I would like to thank Mr. Gonzalez and administration for reversing the high school schedule from 9 periods to 8 periods. I taught summer school this year, first time in a long time. And when the kids first heard that they were going to have 9 periods, they were very concerned. Actually, they were upset, but let's say they were concerned. Now, after I told them, because there were rumors running rampant that we were back to the 8 periods, 5 teaching periods and 2 periods off for core teachers, they were happy because they did not have as many classes to worry about. They already worry about the ones they have, and then to have an additional one. And I believe that the 45 minutes was going to turn into 38 minutes by the time you finish doing everything. The time would not be there. We need to pursue other avenues if we need more credits. But a 9-period day is not the answer. And hopefully what this school board dictates and what administration says will be followed by the campuses. We can't have one campus doing 9 periods, another one doing 7, and another one doing 8. There has to be continuity all the way through. And while we're on that subject, I hope we also honor the school board's time schedule that they set for policy for the schools to operate both at the high school, middle school, and elementary. You set the time. The principals need to follow that. They need to follow that. Hey, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Borrego. Next person is Mrs. Gabriela Moreno, general comments.
Good evening, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Lehman, members of the board. My name is Gabriela Moreno. I work at the Adult Education Center. We are here to share some of our general comments. It won't take more than a couple of minutes. As citizens and as employees of this school district, our observation on tonight's agenda is that administrator positions are being filled laterally. Before you consider any lateral moves tonight, please keep in mind our BISD affirmative action statement, and I quote, BISD does not discriminate on basis of race, color, national origin, sex, religion, age, or disability in employment or provisions of services, programs, or activities. We simply ask, why advertise then? Why create false hopes? Why have people take their time to apply for positions that are intended to be filled laterally? Are these moves made with the students in mind? Are these moves made with other intentions? Members of the board, Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Lehman, please reconsider given the opportunity to qualify applicants. Also keep in mind as you make the decision tonight, the future of our dropouts and adult learners who are the future voters of our community and the vehicle of parental involvement. Please remember that your vote tonight creates an impact on students, employees, and their community. Let's remember the ripple effect. Let's just keep our employee morale high by giving qualified applicants a fair chance and the hope for advancement in this system for an administrative position. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Moreno. That concludes the public audience. Move on to 9, consent agenda general function items. I have received a list from my colleagues indicating that there is no need for discussion or deliberation on the following agenda items. Under A, recommend approval of the following general function items: 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Under B, recommend approval of the following payments: 14. And I apologize, Mr. Aguilar, I didn't get a chance to get your list. Do you have any items that you?
It's already circled.
Okay, I apologize. Going to C, recommend approval of the following contracts and agreements: 15, 16, 17. D, recommend approval of the following application petitions, number 18. E, recommend approval of the following requests for qualifications, RFQs, number 19 and 20. Okay, 20. Okay, I'm sorry, that's correct. Apologize. Mr. Powers, you're on 20, baby. Number 11, closed meeting as pursuant to the Texas government, under 11A, personal matters. Item 21 is consent. Item 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 30. Is there a motion to approve the consent items as read?
President Lehman?
Sorry.
I didn't circle 20, so unless somebody wants to discuss it, I don't have no discussion. Yeah, it's up to you guys.
20?
I'm sorry?
It's 20?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. Well, it's automatically.
No.
It's not in any particular form, Mr. Lehman, because it has all 3 options available: discussion, consideration, and possible action. So there's no recommendation from the administration. So I don't know if Mr. Powers would want to discuss
Yeah, we
this.
gotta discuss it, then go ahead and circle it then.
Yeah. Okay. It goes back on. Anything else,
Number 20.
sir?
Talking to
Okay. So, is there a motion to approve the consent items as read?
So moved.
Motion to accept. Is there a second? Motion and second. All those in favor signify by raising hands, saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. We're moving along. Move on to A, recommend approval of the following general function items. 13, Recommend approval of an evaluator 2 position at pay grade 3 with 226 days for the 2006-2007 school year. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Discussion, Mr. Munoz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I had some observations, and let me just, this item is for approving a position, let's see, this is evaluator 2 position for pay grade 3, 226 days midpoint, 257, that's about $58,000 a year. My observation was that this board approved this item back in June 7th of '05, and then November 15th of last year, item number 7, the administration brought it back to us because they found that they had made a mistake, that it was not it was presented to us as an evaluator 1 position, and they wanted to amend it to be an evaluator 2. They had intended it to be an evaluator 2, and the money and the days were as an evaluator 2, and we concurred, and there was no problem. We approved that change. So in the interim period, now this is to place place the board. The administration is asking us to approve this position. What my question is how did it fall off of how did it, who removed it? This board didn't approve removing it. Dr. Weber, we concurred with Dr. Weber's report that the evaluation folks were understaffed and we needed some more expertise over there. So we urged the administration to fill this out. And as I understand it, we have been interviewing for this position. And what I've been told is that someone has been found or someone has been proposed, and when they took it to personnel said, oh, that position has been closed. So it's been advertised. I understand it was on the web, or it's still on the web. So how did it get closed? I think we need to know that.
Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman, Mr. Munoz, members of the board. When it came down to it, and I'm not going to sit here and point fingers, because it's nothing that we need to point fingers at anybody. However, during the budget process, for whatever reason, it was removed. And it's true, when we were interviewing and looking at recommendations, it was brought to my attention that the position no longer existed. I did contact Mr. Pineda, and he says, yes, it was removed during the budget process. As to who made the recommendation, I didn't even ask, because I felt that was water under the bridge and no need to stir that up. However, the fact of the matter is we do need the position. It's a valuable position. I need programs to be evaluated and find out whether we spend a lot of money on programs that are being initiatives to the school district, and we want to see if they're proven to be successful or not. And the only way I'm going to do that is to have evaluators evaluate programs, to be able to provide feedback to administration to see if the evaluations are good, whether the programs are being effective or not. And I've asked for already for some feedback on some programs that we have in place, and they said we have not been able to do that because we're short-staffed. So I certainly encourage the board to go ahead and put this position back on, and I can sit here and maybe point fingers, but I don't think that's advisable. It does no good. It was dropped during the budget process for whatever reason, but I'm asking through administration, through the board, to go ahead and place it back as something that we can come back to with.
I personally, I concur with your assessment. There's no need to point fingers. I believe my colleagues also concur that I don't think they've changed their mind, unless one would like to say they have, but we agreed with Dr. Weber's assessment that we needed some help here, and I think you've articulated it very well, that we need to evaluate some of our other programs. So we concur that this position needs to be filled by a qualified person. But again, I think this strengthens my contention that the budget process that certainly I've been exposed to for the last 3 years has been an abbreviated process, a process that did not include the participation of the board. Certainly in the last 3 years, I don't feel like I've had the opportunity to review the budget in detail. If someone asked me how many buses are we buying, how many police cars are we buying, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm sure that someone would say, well, it's in the budget. I really don't like that attitude. I think that if someone were to ask me how many police cars are we buying, or I were to ask the question, how many police cars are we buying, I might have my own opinion, and I might not like the number that I'm seeing. So I do, and we do, have the right to know and ask those questions and get the answers to those questions. We need to know exactly what our bus, perhaps our fleet renewal policy is. I don't know what it is. Maybe we're replacing 10% of our fleet per year. I don't know. But if we take more time in the budget process, as we've, I think we'll agree that we need more time, I believe that the board will have more input and be more satisfied with the budget process.
Mr. Aguilar?
Mr. Lehman, and I think that's what Mr. Gonzalez and Mr. Munoz said is so true, how important this position is to our district. And I hope that the administration also follow up on several recommendations that were critical in this assessment department, whether it's personnel, whether it's training, whatever it takes according to that recommendation on that book done by Dr. Weber. So this is needed, but I would like to also for the administration to follow up on the other recommendation within that section of the assessment department. And also, I'm not going to point fingers at anybody else because what's the point? However, it's a good indication that sometimes we review hundreds and hundreds of pages in the budget process, and sometimes not as detailed perhaps to us, our figures, but if they would just tell the board, listen, we're going to eliminate this, just to let us know about it, I mean, that would help us. I mean, perhaps they would avoid this thing coming up to the board.
Additional comments? Okay, thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve item 13. All those in favor signify by raising hands, saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Move on to E, recommend approval of the following requests for qualifications, RFQs. Number 20, discussion, consideration, and possible action to RFQ for superintendent outside search consultant firm. Mr. Powers, discussion.
Mr. Lehman, I put this on because I think we need to determine what's going to be our time frame and what we're going to do as possible superintendent search, hire an outside consulting firm. It's still going to take 6 to 8 months before we do anything. But we need to put some time frames on the board of trustees here when we're going to go out for, or if we're going to get an outside consultant. It'll take 30 days to do an RFQ, and then it'll take another 30 days to hire somebody to do the consultant search, unless we want to do it ourselves. And then you got to look at another 60 days past that to 90 days for qualifications for superintendent's going to apply, like Mr. Gonzalez here. Anybody wants to apply. And then you're talking the interview process, probably December, January. So the longer we wait, then the longer it's going to be. So we got to determine what we as board want to do, either hire in January or hire in the summer. If we hire in January, we need the process started now. If we're going to hire in the summer, then we don't start the process now. So that's why I put it on here, to determine where we're headed. What's any comments on that?
Yes, sir.
I just want to verify that this is appropriate for open session.
Yeah, that's a discussion, consideration. What are the, Mr. Powers has put the agenda item, and at this point, we have discussion.
Yeah, and basically that's what the board decided, because behind closed door, to start the process because the length.
Yes, we didn't decide anything on closed doors.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take it back. The public, I take it back. Never mind what I said. But you know where everybody takes place, so I don't have to tell you. Anyway, but it's true, people are concerned, and everybody is, and it takes a long process, and it's going to open to everyone, regardless if it's Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Pineda, Berta Peña. I believe one of our audience mentioned a list of names last board meeting. It's open to everyone. However, our process is saying we want the best person available, bottom line. Just like we always, when we selecting the best principal, the best this and this and that, that's what we're doing. It's open to anyone. But I agree with Mr. Powers, and I think the board agree that it takes time. And we don't want to be rushed into anything. And by that time, will be probably May.
Additional comments? Okay. Mr. Powers?
Well, I'd like to just go ahead to make the motion to go out for an RFQ for a superintendent search firm.
Okay, and who would be designing the RFQ? What would be the process? Do we follow the process we did 2 years ago?
That's what
3
I
years
would
ago? Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Would we not perhaps, and we can consider it, I don't know if we can consider it now, would perhaps you would have the authority to appoint, Mr. Aguilar just suggested to me that perhaps you might appoint a committee to discuss this and then work up a procedure and then bring it back to the board?
An RFQ?
Well,
I have to follow up as to what the process was used. If he wants to adopt the same process we used 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, then we will model that process. And then from there, it's pretty self-explanatory, and it kind of everything just falls into place. And then once you get the consultants, they set the timetables, and we set the criteria like we did last time. Doctor?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just think that it's a little premature to take action on this item. It's true that it takes some time, but we don't necessarily have to start, on his second meeting. I think we have other priorities at the time, and I think it's premature to take action on this tonight.
What would you recommend? I would have.
Tonight, I recommend nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Lehman, and then, that's going to be the hardest thing here at this board when we start doing this. I've been through it. I think most have been through it. I don't know, Ms. Galvan hasn't been through it. The RFQ is coming back to us to vote on. This is just telling to bring us the RFQ, what we're going to require, what we want to go out for a superintendent search firm. We still have the ultimate power to say yea or nay to that RFQ if we don't want it. Now, once the RFQ comes in, we still got the power to say no to the consulting firm if we don't want to recommend it, guys. So ultimately, we're the responsible party. So if we don't like what we see, then we don't have to vote on those things. But the thing is that we still have a process we need to take place. It is August. I know what Dr. Escobedo was saying, but the same token, it's going to take a while. And you can't start this process in November or December. You want to get somebody on board by the end of the year's fiscal year. And most people that don't want to apply, we want to come either in, y'all hired Dr. Z in January. Some of them might want to come in May or when they leave their school districts or vice versa, how we're going to handle this process. So I just think that time isn't the utmost important thing because this district has gotten great results. We've got great qualified people. Mr. Gonzalez is going to run the district great. We got great area superintendent. So the process is still going to take time. Doesn't make it if we do it now or later, but it's going to take time. And I think we need to start implementing procedures in place.
Yes, sir.
Well, I concur that it is going to take time, and I don't know if you're alluding to the possibility of bringing a new superintendent in by January. I think that.
No, sir, that's not the issue.
Okay, good. I'm glad you that would be rushing it, but you're right. It's going to take time to go through the RFQ process, and we might be able to come to an agreement as selecting a professional firm to assist us. Certainly, it won't be exactly the same format that we used last time. I think we learned a few things from the process
Here's
last
what
time.
I'll recommend. I'll withdraw my motion, and what we'll do is just have Mr. Gonzalez send the RFQ that we used on the previous consulting firm, how we went out for bids on the RFQ. We send it to the Board of Trustees. All of us will review it, and then we put our own
2 cents.
ideas in there if you want to, okay? And then we
Sounds
can bring it
smart.
back on the next previous board meeting.
Okay, that
Okay.
sounds prudent.
All right.
Okay, so, yes, Ms.
I'd like to also add to that, if we could have options, like RFQs an option, there's different options in hiring or.
Well, maybe like Mr. Power said, we have a workshop or a retreat this Saturday, and I think some things will come up in conversation, but I think we need to review. I don't know what exactly I did not vote for an outside search consultant last time, so I don't know what the process was really, how the process came about in formulating the RFQ. I know that that's something that administration at one point will have to advertise, and you would probably have to enlighten us as to what other districts are doing. But some of the board members did have a concern with the last process. So, yes, sir, Mr. Gonzalez.
If I may, Mr. Lehman, members of the board, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and research and give you all not only what you did last time, but all other options that are available. There's different options that are available, and that way I'm not going to push any one of them. I'm just going to give you all the options that are available for your all consideration and be able to discuss. And I might have this hopefully ready maybe by this Saturday to hand out to you at your retreat, so you can at least study them and see what you want to do with it. My job as administrator is to give you all the options that are available, and if that's okay, I'll just bring all the options to you.
Okay, then with all the discussion and the consideration, then no need for action.
No need for action.
Okay, very good, thank you. Move on to item 11, closed meeting, as pursuant to the Texas Government Code, Section 551. I'm sorry, yes, .071, 551.072, 551.074, 551.082, and 551.084. Board goes into closed meetings to take items 22, 24, and 29, and other items. And board reconvenes after closed meeting to take items A, 22 through, I guess, through 30. Well, yeah, I know, but we'll take items 1 through 30 that were, I'm sorry, you're right, you're correct, okay. Item 22, recommend approval of term contractual personnel for the 2006-2007 school year. Choir directors, subject to the receipts of all outstanding documentation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve, second.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 24, recommend approval of term contractual personnel for the 2006-2007 school year. Facilitators, subject to the receipts of all outstanding documentation. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve and second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 29, recommend approval of term contractual personnel for the 2006-2007 school year. Administrator for adult continuing education, subject to the receipts of all outstanding documentation. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Motion to approve and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, saying aye. All those against? One against. You got that? Motion carries. Okay. Counselor, no legal? No real estate? Comments or announcements? Item 1235, next scheduled board meeting of the Board of Trustees is on Tuesday, August 15th, 2006 at the Administration Building at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Gonzalez, you have an announcement? Additional?
Yes, sir, Mr. Lehman, thank you. Members of the board, general public, audience, we received our accountability ratings today, and I'm very proud to announce that 27 of the Brownsville schools received recognized status. Out of those, 24 elementaries were recognized in 3 middle schools. The schools that received recognized status were Stell, Vela, and Lucio middle schools. And those elementaries that received recognized status was Aiken, Burns, Castañeda, Champion, Cromac, Del Castillo, Egley, Gallegos, Garden Park, Gonzales, Longoria, Martin, Morningside, Ortiz, Palm Grove, Paderes, Perez, Putenet, Resaca, Russell, Sharp, Victoria Heights, Villanueva, and Ituria elementary schools. Congratulations to all the staff, all the parents, all the students for a wonderful job they've done. And we look forward to continuing the success and moving forward with the district and having not only more recognized schools next year, but exemplary status in many, many schools. So I'd like to thank the teachers, the staff, and all the principals that worked very, very hard, and the parents that helped out with their students. And congratulations, students, on your outstanding achievement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonzalez. Additional comments? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn in a second. All those in favor signify by raising hands, saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.